Hello and welcome to my channel. Well, I'm making this tutorial with the puff stitch, how to crochet the puff stitch. Puffs have, well, many variations. I have a tutorial for a scarf, and I use for that scarf I use the bean stitch. And many of you, some of you, you're telling me it's a puff stitch. Yes, the technique is almost the same. We pull a lot of loops for the bean stitch and also for the puff stitch, but there is a difference between if you can see, this is the bean stitch and this is the puff stitch. It's different, yeah. Like I'm making, for example, I'm making a sweater here, so this is made with the bean stitch. It looks like a coffee bean, this stitch, but this is just puff stitch. So if you want to do a sweater or a blanket or a scarf with a puff stitch with this one, you can do it. You're gonna have some spaces. Like I said, puff stitch has many variations. You can make the puffs close to each other or some space. For example, on my channel I have a tutorial with a sweater with this puff stitch. Well, it's not quite a tutorial, I'm just showing how I did the sweater. Yeah. Well, this is the puff stitch. It's reversible, it's nice. You can do a shawl, you can do a blanket, whatever you like to do with the stitch. Okay, let's do the stitch. For this stitch you're gonna chain multiples of 4. I chain here multiples of 4. What we're gonna do, we're gonna skip the first 3 chains. 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th chain, yarn over the hook, we're gonna go into the 4th chain from the hook, and we're gonna pull up a loop, yarn over the hook, go back again, and pull up a loop in the same chain. At this point you have 5 loops, yarn over the hook, go back again, and pull another loop. You have 2, 4, 6, 7, yarn over the hook, and go back again, and pull up another loop. So when you have 9 loops, then you're gonna grab the yarn and you're gonna pull the yarn through the first 8 loops, not the last one. So grab the yarn, pull the yarn through all those 8 loops. Oops. So you're gonna be remaining with the 2 loops. Grab the yarn and pull the yarn to the last 2 loops, chain 1, yarn over the hook. We're gonna skip the next stitch, the next chain, and in the next chain we're gonna do a puff stitch. So yarn over the hook, skip 1 stitch, and into the next we're gonna pull up a loop. You're gonna go inside the same chain 4 times. So we went once, yarn over the hook, twice, yarn over the hook. We go for the 3rd time, yarn over the hook, and the 4th time, and you should have 9 loops on your hook. So you're gonna pull the yarn through all 8 loops, but not this one. So grab the yarn and pull the yarn through all 8 loops. You're gonna be remaining with 2, pull the yarn to the last 2, chain 1, yarn over the hook. We're gonna skip the next chain, and in the next we're gonna do a puff stitch. So you go into the chain, pull up a loop, yarn over the hook, go back again, pull up a loop, and you're gonna do like this until you have 9 loops. We have only 7 here, 2, 4, 6, 7. So yarn over the hook, and you're gonna go back again, and you have 9. Pull the yarn through the first 8 loops. You're gonna have 2 left. Pull the yarn to the last 2, chain 1, yarn over the hook, skip the next stitch, and in the next you're gonna do a puff stitch. So pull up a loop, yarn over the hook, go back again into the same chain, pull up a loop, yarn over the hook, go back and pull up a loop, yarn over the hook, go back again and pull up a loop. You have 9 loops. Pull the yarn through the first 8 loops, pull the yarn to the last 2, then chain 1, So you're gonna do like this until the end of the row. So yarn over the hook, skip the next chain, and in the next pull up a loop, and you're gonna do like this. You're gonna go 4 times. 4 times you're gonna put the yarn over the hook, and 4 times you're gonna go inside the same chain. So you have 9 loops. Pull the yarn to the first 8 loops, pull the yarn to the last 2, chain 1, yarn over the hook, skip the next chain, and in the next we're gonna do a puff. So once, twice, 3 times, and the 4th and last time. You have 9 loops. Pull the yarn to all these 8 loops. You're gonna have 2 left. Pull the yarn to the last 2, chain 1. So you're gonna be left with 2 chains. You're gonna skip the next chain, and in the last chain you're gonna do a puff. So go in there, pull up a loop, and you go the last time 4th. You're gonna have 9 loops on your hook. Grab the yarn and pull the yarn through the first 8 loops. You have 2 left. Pull the yarn to the last 2. Then you're gonna chain 2. 1, 2. Turn your work. It's gonna look like this. And now you have here the first bean. So yarn over the hook, and we're gonna go, there's stitches on top, yeah? So we're gonna go on top of the first bean into the stitch. You're gonna go into the stitch there on top of the bean, and you start to do a bean, not a bean, a puff. So once, twice, 3, and the 4th. You have 9 loops. Pull the yarn to the first 8 loops, pull the yarn to the last 2, chain 1, yarn over the hook, and now you move to the next puff, and you have the stitch right here. You go into that. You go into the stitch on top of the puff, and you pull up a loop, yarn over the hook, pull up a loop, and you're gonna do like this until you have 9 loops. 4 times. Pull the yarn to the first 8 loops, pull the yarn to the last 2, chain 1. Move to the next puff. The stitch is right here on top. So you go into the stitch and you start to make a puff. You have 7 loops at this point. So you're gonna go 4 times in there. Chain 1. Move to the next puff. The stitch is right on top of the puff. You go in there. So once, 2 times, 3 times, and 4th. Pull the yarn to the first 8 loops. You have to pull to the last 2, chain 1. You move to the next puff. The stitch is right here on top. And the 4th time, chain 1. You move to the next puff, and so on. It's very simple. It's just one row repeat. It's very easy. Chain 1, and now you have the puff here, the last one. So yarn over the hook. You go on top of the stitch on top of the puff. 1, 2, 3, and 4th. Pull the yarn to the first 8 loops, and when you reach now the end, yarn over the hook. You're not going to chain. After you pull the yarn to the last 2 loops, you're not going to chain 1, yarn over the hook, and you have the chain 3 that we skipped in the beginning. You're going to go on top of the top chain, the 3rd one, this one here, this one, and you're gonna do a double crochet, chain 2, turn your work, yarn over the hook, and you're gonna move to the first puff. The stitch is right here. You go into that and you start to make a puff. You can put as many times you like the yarn over the hook, and you know, you can go inside as many times you like, but I will just go 4 times. This is the way I do the puff stitch. So you move to the next puff, the stitch is on top there, you go into that stitch, so 1, 2, 3 and 4th, pull the yarn to the first 8 loops, pull the yarn to the last 2, chain 1, and you move to the next puff. On top of the puff is the stitch, and you start doing. Chain 1, yarn over the hook, move to the next puff, you go on top of the puff, the stitch is there, and you start pulling up loops. You can make them as high as you want, but you know, we chain 2, so if you want the puffs to be bigger, then chain 3 at the end. Now when you reach the end, you chain 3, and then you can make this high enough. It has to be the same height like the chain, either you chain 2 or 3. Okay, so you move to the next puff and so on. It's very simple, this stitch. I think it's nice to make like a spring sweater. It's really nice. So the next, you move to the next puff. At this point you have only 7 loops. One more time. Pull the yarn to the first 8 loops, last 2, chain 1. And now at the end you have the puff stitch, so the stitch is right here, this one. So yarn over the hook, you go into the stitch and you do a puff stitch. 1, 2, 3 and 4th. Pull the yarn to the first 8 loops, pull the yarn to the last 2 and chain 2. The way I do it, one row you're gonna finish only with the puff stitch, and the next row you have to do the puff stitch, and then you have the chain 2 which you're gonna go into it. Yeah. So you chain 2, turn your work, and you start again. The puff is here, the stitch is right here, this one. So you go into that stitch and you start doing the puff. Pull the yarn to the first 8 loops, the last 2, chain 1. Move to the next puff, the stitch is on top there. Yeah, but this one is gonna eat a lot of yarn, this stitch. So you move to the next puff and you do the same. You can go only 3 times and 3 times put the yarn over the hook. It's either way, how thick and big you like the puffs. You move to the next one. And pull the yarn to the first 8 loops, last 2, chain 1. You move to the next one. And so on, and the next puff, and you're gonna do like this. So like I said, in one row you're gonna finish with only puff, and the other row, the next one, like now, yarn over the hook. So we finished here, let's say, with only the puff, but now we're gonna do into the chain in there. So the last puff is here, the stitch is right here on top, so you're gonna do a puff. Okay, pull the yarn through all 8 loops, 2 loops, pull the yarn to the last 2, don't chain 1, yarn over the hook and find the chain 2. It's this one here down. So this is the second chain here, and you're going to go into that second chain, pull up a loop, and you're going to do a double crochet, chain 2, and the next row that you're going to finish only with the puff stitch here, not going into the chain. Yeah. So you're going to do the same on and on and on. This is the puff stitch. Like I said, puff stitch has many variations. You can do which one you like, but you know, the process is kind of the same. Depends where we go in between the puffs to do the bean stitch. With the bean stitch, they're stuck on top of each other, you know, with the puff stitch. With the bean stitch, they're like slanted, let's say slanted puffs, but this looks like a bean, like a coffee bean, let's say. So this is the scarf that I have on my channel. If you're interested, you can look and see. It's just I don't show how to do the scarf. I'm just showing the stitch how to do it with this scarf. But this is the puff stitch. So if you like, you can do it. It's really easy, but it's a lot of yarn. So be ready. Like this this sweater that I'm doing is with a bean stitch, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, I might not have enough yarn to finish my sweater. Yeah, but well, if you want, give it a try to the puff stitch. You can do like a curtain or something like that. It's really nice, but still the light can go through it. So well, this is the puff stitch. Give it a try. You're gonna love it. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.